Boston Election Department has a new commissioner. He's a longtime city official with experience in code enforcement, public health, and fair housing. We'd like to welcome the new election commissioner, Dion. Thank you very much for being with us, Commissioner. First of all, talk about some of the connections between what you've done before and what you're doing now.
Well, my work in the past has always been around opportunity and also creating opportunity for residents of our city and protecting the rights of our residents of our city. And so this new opportunity, is a perfect segue. There's no greater right and opportunity that we have in the city than to exercise our right to vote and to have a strong democratic environment.
I know one of the things that's changed with some of these election deadlines is the way we remind people before. You had to put it in the newspaper or say it out loud on TV. Recently, I saw something come up. I did a post on Twitter with a link to your website. So I guess things are changing.
Yes, we're using social media as well. Our Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts. The Mayor Walsh's administration has been very strong in utilizing those avenues, as well as your traditional outlets. We're still sending out press releases. We'll still put out sandwich boards on the street to remind folks of Election Day. So we're using every avenue that we could think of to have good voter engagement.
Now, we're a little bit too late to remind people about registering to vote before the preliminary election on September 8th, but if you can't make it to vote that day, you could still get an absentee ballot, so we should be talking about that, I guess.
Yes, and that deadline is fast approaching. Actually, September 4th at 5 p.m. is the deadline for absentee ballots, so we're hoping that folks who are not going to be able to vote on Election Day on September 8th in Districts 4 and District 7 will take advantage of this process as well. And I also want to just add on, especially reminding students who may be heading off to college and want to still participate, that they could request those ballots so that they can still do so.
What about the process of, either registering to vote or getting one of these absentee ballots? A lot of people, maybe not so much younger people, but, there might be this habit of mind. You think, well, I've got to go to City Hall. It's going to take a long time. I've got to wait in line. I've got to write out this form. But maybe it's a lot quicker than that.
It's a lot quicker. If you want to do it in person, we have, good staff in City Hall and the election department, so you'll get service quickly. But you can also do it online, which is a new feature, so you can access that through our website, and it actually connects you to the Secretary of State's website, which allows you to do those things online.
What about the ways of getting people motivated to vote, man? I know you can't plug candidates, but as far as getting people to feel that no matter how they feel about candidates, it's really important to get out there.
Yeah, it's a challenge, so that's why we're using social media. We want to also increase our partnerships with stakeholder organizations to help, in a grassroots way, spread the word, and also to remind folks that these local municipal elections are just as important, if not more so, than the federal elections that may get more attention because they're on TV. But city councils, for example, they have fiscal oversight over the city. They provide a lot of constituent services. I mean, there are a lot of, services that you experience in your day-to-day life that are provided by these elected officials. So we should pay attention to those races as well.
One of the things that I appreciate the most about what you've got to do is you get all these numbers crunched pretty fast, but you have to avoid mistakes too. Isn't that pretty difficult?
Yeah, I mean, we have a great staff there, a lot of folks there who have a lot of experience with this. And for me, it's going to be my first go around on September 8th on the inside of things. So I'm very excited and looking forward to experiencing my first election on the inside of the election department on September 8th.
Now another a challenge you've got here is that people move, and every time you move, you got to register again usually. And we have neighborhoods where we didn't have neighborhoods 10 years ago. Yeah. You must have to really keep on top of stuff to accommodate that.
Yeah, one of the things I've learned in the 2+ weeks that I've been at this department is that there's no dull moments. We'll move from one thing to the next. So we're going to be going from having an election September 8th to one in November. And then in January, we begin doing an annual city census, which is another undertaking, but it also helps us to remind folks to update registrations, and the things that you described before. So we're constantly, in communication with our residents and with our voters and getting information from them and reminding them to update their information with us.
Now, explain how important that city census is. A lot of people think that, well, that's the federal census. Isn't that the one that really counts? Why is the city census so important?
It's very important. It's actually required by law that we do the census every year. It allows us to know what our population looks like, so we can, we don't have to wait every 10 years to figure out what we need in terms of resources to provide for our residents. And it also helps us to fulfill our obligation to the state jury commission, because they annually draw from our census to populate their jury database as well.
Now, a lot of us have mixed feelings about jury duty. We don't always look forward to it, but on the other hand, we're pretty upset if those juries don't reflect the real population too.
Exactly, that's an excellent point, Chris. And and the jury system and our democratic electoral system, those are important bedrocks for the United States and for the city of Boston. So it's important that folks participate on juries and that they get involved in the electoral process.
We should mention if people want to find out more about that process or anything else having to do with elections, you've got plenty of things online, so where should they go?
They should go to cityofboston.gov/elections, or they could like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter.
Right. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Boston's new election commissioner, Dion Irish.